Howdy, I'm Clint Walker and you're watching GBTV News.
Thanks, Clint, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, Egypt bombs Libya after Islamic State beheads 21 hostages. And fighting continues despite ceasefire in eastern Ukraine. And UN Security Council demands Houthis step down in Yemen. And a report says U.S. escalates night raids in Afghanistan since end of combat mission. And suspect killed in deadly Copenhagen attacks on free speech event and synagogue. And Obama says Chapel Hill shooting brutal and outrageous. And thousands take part in North Carolina Moral March. In Pennsylvania, governor suspends capital punishment. Indian immigrant seriously wounded in alleged assault by Alabama officer. And hundreds protest fatal police shooting of Mexican worker in Washington state. And New England hit with new blizzard in record month of snowfall. A Mexican migrant gets awarded $500,000 for shooting by U.S. border agent. An advisor says Obama faked his opposition to marriage equality for political gain. And Bahraini protesters mark 4th anniversary of pro-democracy uprising. GVTV News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television, division of Rural Counties Television Network, whose focus is on community involvement. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Today's first world news story, Egypt has bombed what it calls Islamic State targets in Libya after the group released video showing beheading of 21 Coptic Christians in Libya. The victims are led to a beach dressed in orange jumpsuits like the prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. They are then beheaded one by one. The lead executioner points his knife at the camera, delivers a message, what he calls the Crusaders, and says, "Oh people, recently we've seen us on the hills of Az-Sham and Dabiq's plain, chopping off heads that have been carrying cross for a long time, filled with spite against Islam and Muslims. And today we are on the south of Rome and the land of Islam. Libya's sending another message, O Crusaders, safety of you and will be only wishes, especially if you're fighting us all together." Prisoners are all migrant workers from Egypt kidnapped after in the past 2 months. Egypt declared a week of mourning and bombing what it described as Islamic State training camps and facilities. Another group of Egyptian workers were kidnapped in Libya over the weekend. Video is the first release showing an ISIS beheading outside of its stronghold in Syria and Iraq. ISIS is one of several militant groups that have emerged. Militant groups. I think they're called Islamic Muslim terrorists. Ceasefire is under threat in eastern Ukraine after taking effect this weekend. Sporadic fighting has broken out in several areas. Ukrainian military says separatists have continued attacks while the rebels accuse Ukrainian forces of deploying heavy artillery. PAC calls for an end to attacks and withdrawal of heavy weapons from the front lines. Ukraine says it will not withdraw some heavy artillery, and shelling from both sides continues in the city of Dropouts. UN Security Council has called on Houthi rebels to give up control of Yemen's government. Houthis dissolved parliament earlier this month and named a new president after forcing the ousting of President Abdul Rabu Mansour Hadi. The British ambassador to the United Nations, Mark Lyle Grant, called Haiti to be restored to office and said, "Today we have made clear to those of violence and intimidation to try to dictate Yemen's future are undermining the security of all Yemeni citizens and are eroding the political progress made since 2011. Houthis must take responsibility for their actions, stop using violence and coercion as political tools. They must ensure the immediate, safe release of President Adai, Prime Minister Baha, and members of the cabinet from the house arrest. Measure does not authorize military action to ensure its enforcement. United Nations warned last week Yemen is on the brink of civil war and political collapse." United States has escalated military operations in Afghanistan despite a formal end to its combat mission in December. According to the New York Times, American Special Operations Forces have carried out a significant increase in night raids over the past several months. NATO occupation declared an end to combat operations in December, but the United States secretly expanded its role to ensure American troops continue fighting. U.S. forces have directly engaged in combat roles during joint operations with Afghan counterparts. Afghanistan recently elected President Ashraf Ghani has eased restrictions on night raids imposed by his predecessor, Ahmed Karzai. Danish police have shot and killed a man they say carried out attacks on a synagogue and an event promoting free speech in Copenhagen. Local media identified the suspect as 22-year-old Omar al-Hussein, who had reportedly been released from prison just 2 weeks earlier. 2 other people were also charged with aiding him. The presumed target of the attack, Swedish artist Lars Vilks, who recently received death threats for depicting the head of the Prophet Muhammad on a dog. Vilks was unarmed, but a Danish film director was shot dead. He was unharmed. Some officers were also wounded. The attacks in Copenhagen came months after gunmen attacked the Paris offices and French magazine Charlie Hebdo, killing 12 people. President Obama has condemned the murders of the 3 Muslim students in Chapel Hill, North Carolina last week. In a statement, Obama called the killings brutal and outrageous, and adding, "No one in the U.S. should ever be targeted because of who they are and what they look like and how they worship." The FBI denounced the probe as local police investigating continues. Suspected gunman Craig Stephen Hicks had frequently posted anti-religious comments on his Facebook page. On Friday, dozens of Muslims paid tribute to the victims in a prayer gathering outside the White House. Ali Hassan said, it could have been any one of us. It could have been my fiancée who covered her hair. It could have been my mother who covers her hair. And what hurts the most is that they weren't killed for any other reason other than the fact that they were Muslims. Although there are reports out that said that it was over a parking incident. On Saturday, the brother of Chapel Hill shooting victim Day Barakat joined thousands of people in the capital of Raleigh in a moral march. Organizers called it the largest civil rights rally in South since Selma in Montgomery March in 1965. And Democratic Governor Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania has issued a moratorium on death penalty in his state. Wolf cited the calls of error-prone justice system and inherent biases in the court process. Moratorium will remain in place until a task force of capital punishment submits a final report. In a statement, Amnesty International said Pennsylvania is now moving towards the national consensus that death penalty is broken, costly, and needs to be abolished. An Indian immigrant, or I guess he's an immigrant, has filed suit over an alleged assault from an Alabama police officer that left him partially paralyzed. Shirabai Patel was walking outside of his son's home in the city of Madison when someone called police reporting a suspicious person in an incident caught on video. Officer who arrived at the scene throws Patel to the ground. Patel, who speaks no English, was severely injured and underwent spinal surgery. His lawsuit says race factored into his treatment. The officer has been charged with assault. Police officials have apologized. FBI is also investigating. And hundreds of people rallied in Washington state this weekend over the fatal police shooting of an illegal immigrant from Mexico. Antonio Zambrano Montes was allegedly throwing rocks at police when they shot him dead. Video shows of Zambrani falling to the sidewalk with his arms in air after police opened fire. Police Sergeant Ken Lattin acknowledged Montes was unarmed and said the killing is being investigated. He said Antonio Zambrano Montes was not armed with a gun or a knife. We all know based on the videos we've watched in the social media that he did at one point at least have a rock in his hand, and through that rock, investigations continue on whether he was armed with a rock at the time he was shot. Is still an ongoing investigation. Zambrano worked in an apple orchard after migrating to the United States a decade ago, the Mexican government has condemned the death as a disproportionate use of lethal force. New England has hit with its fourth major snowstorm in less than a month. 2 feet of snow fell in some areas, adding up to 6 feet already on the ground. That's up to 8 feet. February has become Boston's snowiest month since records began in 1872. Reported the city has now recorded more snow in 3 weeks than it was ever seen in the entire winter. Climate scientist Michael Mann noted the link between record snowfall and climate change, tweeting, "If you deny the warmer ocean temps lead to greater snowfall with coastal winter storms, you are not a climate denier, you are a physics denier." A Mexican national has been awarded $500,000 settlement for being shot in the back by a U.S. Border Patrol agent in 2010. Agent initially acknowledged Jesus Castro Romo was unarmed, but later said he had threatened to attack him with a rock. Agent has since been imprisoned for working with drug cartels. U.S. government has ordered to pay for Castro's medical costs and loss of income over 4 decades. Judge reduced Castro's damage by 10% because he was illegally crossing the border when he was shot. Top advisor has confirmed President Obama faked his opposition to same-sex marriage in order to help his 2008 presidential campaign. Can you believe that? In a new book, campaign strategist David Axelrod says Obama was always for marriage equality, but lied in order to win votes. Obama reportedly said, "I'm just not very good at BSing." But near the end of the Obama first term, Axelrod said the president told aides he would no longer hide his true position. Axelrod said, "There's no doubt that his sympathies were very much from the side of allowing gay couples to marry. He also recognized this country wasn't there yet, and we needed to bring the country along. There was always the most vexing issue because there was some part of him that's always wanted to say, you know what, I just don't believe this." 2012, 2011, really, he basically said to us, "Look, I'm just telling you, if I get asked the question, if I were a state legislator, how I would vote, I'm going to say I would vote for gay marriage, and you guys better prepare for it." After claiming his position had evolved, President Obama declared his public support for marriage equality in 2012, becoming the first president to do so. It's called a flip-flop. Protests were held across Bahrain this weekend to mark the 4th anniversary of pro-democracy uprising. Opposition activists began protesting the U.S.-backed Sunni regime on February 14, 2011, amidst political upheaval in Egypt and Tunisia. Protests were crushed in martial law and U.S.-backed invasion of Saudi Arabian forces. Bahrain is a key U.S. government ally in the Gulf, hosting the Navy's 5th Fleet. And that's it for World News today. Now, another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. That's right, it's time for the police blotter. Pictures in the blotter are not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Thursday, 8:21 a.m., a man reported chemtrails all over the place and a conspiracy to fluoridate the water. He refused to give his name. 8:51 a.m., a caller from 100 block of Chester Street reported credit card theft with a card used at a gas station. At 10:27 a.m., a caller from 400 block of Bennett Street reported a neighbor smoking marijuana and affecting her health and playing loud music. The neighbor threw an object at the window when she asked him to turn the music down. 11:49 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Sutton Way reported people living and bathing in a business parking lot. And 3:53 p.m., a caller from 100 block of West Olympia Drive reported an assault. A person was taken to the hospital with a facial injury. And 5:35 p.m., a caller from 1,000 block of Laurel Lane reported a physical fight in Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Thursday. 8:05 a.m., a caller from Relief Hill Road reported ongoing drug activity. 9:33 a.m., a caller from 11,000 block of East Bennett Road reported a group of transients stole a generator using a wheelbarrow. A man was arrested on misdemeanor warrant. Another person was cited on suspicion of possessing drug paraphernalia, among other charges. 10:08 a.m., a man from 17,000 block of Sunrise Road reported a neighbor was hiding in his bushes and then ran off when confronted. And 10:12 a.m., a man from 12,000 block of Francis Drive reported a scam call from the FBI. And 1:19 p.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Piper Lane reported a realtor sign installer urinated on the front yard towards the caller's daughter and threatened to fight the caller. 2 p.m., a caller from 13,000 block of Grunt Hill Road reported a residential burglary. And 3:12 p.m., a caller from 16,000 block of Otter Road reported an IRS scam call. Nevada City Police Department on Thursday, 1:22 p.m., a caller from 900 block of Hellingway reported a woman walking around a parking lot peering into vehicle windows. And 5:18 p.m., a caller from Business 700 block of Zion Street reported the theft of services by a guest. At 8:07 p.m., a caller from 200 block of Commercial Street reported a man huffing air cleaner on the boardwalk. And Friday, 12:36 a.m., a caller from a jail reported a man repeatedly ringing an intercom asking for different correctional officers and not making any sense. He could not be located. Seriously? That's it for the blotter today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's local news headlines, Nevada County Sheriff's MRAP gets a makeover. And in a story, in our first story, in an attempt to make its new mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicle, also known as MRAP, I guess it is, Nevada County Sheriff's Office has given the vehicle a custom paint job covering the original desert tan with a white paint, Nevada County Sheriff's emblem on its door. I don't think you can change the fact that it looks like a military vehicle, said Captain Jeff Pettit, but painting it was to make it just come into the department color scheme. Acquired in April 2014, the MRAP was obtained by the Sheriff's Office through a Department of Defense Excess Property Program, also known as DOD 1033. The program dates back to 1990s. Congress used a series of National Defense Acts between 1990 and 97 to authorize the law enforcement agencies around the country to acquire surplus military equipment from DOD. through the MRAP, which typically runs anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000, was free of charge for the county. It costs around $7,000 to transport the vehicle from Pennsylvania. Fee paid by the Sheriff's Asset Seizure Fund. Nevada County Board of Supervisors approved the acquisition during the April 8, 2014 meeting. According to Pettit, the vehicle itself may have been used in Iraq and Afghanistan, but was shipped back stateside to be re-outfitted and redeployed. But with the scale down of troop involvement in the war, the vehicle was redistributed to be used for the 1033 program. It is to keep our staff and everyone safe in those dangerous situations, Sheriff Royal said. That's the vehicle's intention. Painted with the word rescue on the back of it, MRAP will be used for taking personnel or residents out of harm's way in situations where high-powered rounds are being fired. Pettit said the department previously had an old armored car they used for incidents of that caliber, but it is not operable. It's not something we would do every day. It's for these rare occasions when we need it. On January 30th, 2015, Truckee area man Gary Dubby, I think, reportedly barricaded himself inside his Donner Summit home and began firing shots at local law enforcement outside his window. Pettit said that was the first and thus far the only time the MRAP was used. This guy had a high-powered rifle. Officers had to abandon their vehicles and get cover behind something more substantial. In that instance, we brought in the MRAP out for that. By the time we arrived on the scene, they were able to get the gentleman in custody. But that's the type of situation where it becomes invaluable because some of these hunting rifle rounds will go through our patrol cars or anything that we have except for this vehicle. National outcry over police violence in cities such as Ferguson and New York City, along with use of military equipment by law enforcement around the country, has some local residents concerned over possible militarization of local police forces. Royal, though, says that through the use of the MRAP is for practical purposes and not everyday use. We can use it to evacuate an officer that may have been injured, and we can use it to evacuate surrounding neighbors, and that's what it's all about. It was a wonderful opportunity to get our officers equipment that can keep our community safe. Pettit added, I feel that it makes our job a little safer for our guys. It benefits the community in giving us another option. It is definitely another tool in our toolbox that we can pull out if we need it. And that's it for today.
Crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon, I could go to space. With the air like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Grass Valley Television brings you local and world news, and we broadcast our 30-minute show 6 times a day on NCTV, Public Access, Comcast Cable, Channel 11 and 18. Also, we're on Sudden Link, Channel 16 and 18. We have 3 amazing series: Music, a 30-minute weekly show that airs 4 times a week, and Pride, Integrity, Guts, and Service, hosted by Sheriff Keith Royal and me on a bi-monthly series, plays 4 times a week. We're your community media, and if you have a business and would like to underwrite our shows, we offer almost 200 30-second spots a month on Comcast and Sudden Link. We also stream live on NevadaCountyTV.org and video on demand there, and our own websites, gbtv.org and GrassValleyTelevision.com. We also post to several Facebook pages and YouTube, Vimeo, Blip.tv, and many other sites on the web where we mirror our shows. We provide 30-second spots and a 60-second spot for you to embed on your webpage or whatever you want to do with it. For more information, you can call us 362-8889 or email grassvalleytelevision@gmail.com. We will be happy to explain how your support of us will help us support